Good afternoon, Mr. Ardinas. Good afternoon, my fellow classmates. We are the Group 1, and for this afternoon, we are going to talk about media and globalization. So, as we progress along the said topic, the following are expected to be discussed. First is what is the role of media and globalization, followed by the pros and cons of globalization. Next is we're going to answer the question whether globalization would still happen without media, and lastly is media globalization considered a form of cultural imperialism? So without further ado, let us now start our discussion.
Is the role of media in globalization. So first, media industry is in many ways great platform for globalization or the spread of global trade without regard for traditional political borders. So it means to say that the low marginal cost of media mean that is reaching a wider market creates much larger profit margins for media company because information is not a physical good. Shipping costs are generally inconsequential. So finally, the global reach of media allows it to be more relevant in many different countries. However, some have argued that media is an actual a partial cost of globalization rather than just another globalized industry. So the second rule of media in globalization is media components such as television, internet, computers, and etc. are considered to have a paramount influence on globalization. It's very true because of globalization process today, there is an increased access to be a broad range of media which plays a very important role in shaping human minds and has an immense impact on our society's personal lives. Also, media components is an instrument to disseminate information throughout the countries. Third role of media in globalization, media allows for quick communication, fast and coordinated transport, and efficient mass marketing, all of which have allowed globalization, especially globalized media, to take hold. So as we all know, media are using the advancement of technologies communication, and it is very quick communication because of the television, internet, the computers, and so on. Through that, it can easily send and receive the information, and the media have an extremely important role to play, and some would even go so far as to state that they are the career of globalization.
I will discuss about the role of media of globalization, and first is I will define media and what is globalization. So media refers to the globalization. It is the process which business other organization develop to the influence or start internationalizing scale. So the mass of today um, seen as playing key role and enhancing globalization and facilitating the cultural and exchange the multiple flows or information and images between countries through international news and broadcast. So, if before the 1990s mainstream media system in most countries of the world we were relatively national in scope, intending their reach beyond nation state and conquer audiences worldwide. So, international flows information have been assisted to the countries and Europe, United States in order to the permit of profilation of cable and satellite channels, even if the general mass of the cable of complexity global reach. What is certain, globalization has expanded in the importance of information lies within the public sphere, and sharing that information doubtly continue to have an effect on the lives individuals to face their relationship in each other to the national states, and use to the which businesses of organization develop international influence or start operating in the national scale, and that's it.
There are advantages and disadvantages when it comes to media globalization. Here is some list of advantages of media globalization. First is media globalization help us to become aware of global issues. So we need the media to keep us informed. Before mass media, it could take weeks for someone to get the news. But nowadays, news spread in a blink of an eye because of the help of media. Places far from the direct information were reached fast. Places like that became aware of the national and international information. Second is it develops social and political sense. People who are unaware of political issues well educated, which can help promote and increase interaction between the different regions. Lastly, it aids in developing an identity. In media, especially social media, viral issues spread widely all over the world, either true or false. With the help of media, people who are victims of incorrect misidentifications were rectified. Not just victims, but also suspect that intentionally mislead identify informations will be busted with the help of media. Thank you, that's all.
Next is the cons of media globalization. First is might instill wrong perceptions. The reason why it is instill wrong perception because there are fake news that are published online and it confuses people's minds which one is true and which one is fake. Second is might develop erroneous belief. It can also develop erroneous belief like there are media advocacies convinces you to join their group because they believe that their faith in that idea is good for you or any idealistic point of view. And last is it might cause addiction. It can cause addiction by scrolling down in their Facebook, Twitter, and other social media sites, and also playing mobile games from time to time. That is why it can cause addiction to people.
Confirmation about is there globalization without media? On the contradictory, many scholars said that without media there's also no globalization. For me, globalization has nothing to do with the media. Globalization is simply the ability of corporations to reach out into the new markets and territory. In that respect, media has a place in that expansion. So globalization could still occur without media. They presented that globalization occurred mainly because of the exchange of information among people through the use of media. The media are seen today as playing a key role in enhancing globalization, facilitating culture exchange and multiple flows of information and image between countries through international news broadcasts, television, new technologies, film and music. Next.
So next is they also presented that without media globalization would be impossible since people would stick to their conventional ways of thinking. So those rejecting the ideologies coming from different people in different nations. So globalization spread of global trade because of global media. However, there are many nations not agree without media. The perspective of people should have importance information relevant. So next is in our point of view there would be globalization, however the pace of exchange of information across the globe would be slow. In other words, globalization would still happen but a slower way. So for me, globalization is not in decline. It is a simply changing. Although the COVID-19 crisis has been a dramatic decline in a good trade, invest, and the movement of people, a new type of globalization is emerging. That's all.
Is media globalization a form of cultural imperialism? Cultural imperialism is the imposition by one usually politically or economically dominant community of various aspects of its own culture onto another non-dominant community. For me, yes, ang media globalization mo helps good siya para form good siya para sa cultural imperialism because na may mga na may mga movies sa other country na ilang i-export diri sa atua, and then kita sa the Filipino tan-out ta kay tungod ganahan ta nila ay ganahan ta makatunsa na movie like may mohatag bag inspired or motivation nato kita sa ganahan sa mo nang katag natin mga personality na ma-adapt sa nato tungod sa movie natong gitan-aw. But na example sa dili lang kasi sa movie, example sa mga pagkaunan like Starbucks or Nike, kita ganahan sa tamsulot ug mga mopalitan na kay tungod para mas kuan ta nila ba mas mapareha ta nila dili sa tamabiya sa ilang culture mo nang media mo form gyud siya og social imperialism, and that's all.
Our group still considers media globalization as a modern form of cultural imperialism in a way that media acts as a medium towards influencing cultural concepts of dominant countries towards non-dominant countries. So with the help of media, cultures coming from developed countries has reached the hearts of people living in developing countries. So with this, dominant countries were able to somehow spread influence by means of enculturizing the people which were reached by their media platforms. A concrete example of this is the spread of Korean culture towards us Filipinos. So one cannot simply deny the fact that because of social media, advertisements, and other form of media, the spread of Korean culture came into smooth transition, especially when it comes to their food, music, and beauty preference. Simply speaking, certain number of Filipinos proclaim themselves as part of Korean culture. Nonetheless, we have to bear in mind that this type of modern cultural imperialism does not only bring pure negativity towards us. We have to consider that because of this, we were able to adopt and mix our culture along with cultures coming from different nations in order to form a hybrid culture which is beneficial to us. And I am sure that this phenomenon does not only exist in our country, but as well as to countries across the globe. So that's all. Thank you. So in conclusion, media has brought or has contributed a lot towards the process of globalization. So even though there were negative effects that were mentioned, we still believe that the positive effects still way greater than the negative effects. So overall, media we still consider media as a very important factor towards the process of globalization, especially that these days technology is continuously improving. So with the help of media, this somehow ensures that all the countries will move all together forward and that no country will be left behind. So thank you for listening, and that's all.